Apex Express, Asian Pacific Expression.
Community and cultural coverage,
Music and calendar,
new visions and voices.
coming to you with an Asian Pacific Islander point of view.
It's time to get on board the Apex Express.
Thank you for tuning in to Apex Express. Last Thursday, Season 2 of the HBO Max medical drama The Pitt released its Season 2 finale, concluding a hectic season following medical professionals in the emergency room and giving a realistic depiction of real-world issues in hospitals. I'm Isabel Li, one of the hosts here on Apex Express, and I'm so honored to be joined by two members of that cast tonight who play the two Filipina nurses on The Pitt. They were recently awarded the Actor Award for Outstanding Performance by an ensemble in a drama series. First, let's hear from actress Amielynn Abellera, who plays Nurse Perla, a Muslim Filipina nurse on the show. Hi, Amielynn. What an honor it is to be speaking to you today. Welcome to Apex Express.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be speaking with you too.
So many of our listeners might know you from the HBO Max show The Pitt, which I have so very much enjoyed. This is actually the first medical show that I have watched, and I really, really admire all of the ensemble cast and everything coming to life. And you played the Muslim Filipina nurse, Perla Alawi. We'll talk more about your performance and your character in a little bit, but first, this is a question that I ask all my guests. Can you tell us, how do you identify, and is there a story that you think really encapsulates your identity?
Gosh, I identify as Amielynn Abellera. She, her, hers. I'm a Filipino American, daughter of two immigrants, and I'm so thrilled and happy to be talking to you and to sharing my experience of my life.
Absolutely. Of course, The Pitt is a medical show. And is it true that you come from a medical background yourself? Like, I heard that you were a psychobiology major in undergrad.
Yeah, I was pursuing medicine for a long time. I studied pre-med in undergrad at Santa Clara University, majoring in psychobiology, which is psychology with basically a minor in biology. I really wanted to get into neuroscience and or be an oncologist. And I was pursuing that all the way till I graduated and applying to medical school and getting interviews. But ever since I was a kid, for as long as I can remember, I was really also passionate about acting and theater and film and television and being on stage. But it was really just seen as a hobby in my mind and in sort of my environment's mind. I never really prioritize it as a career, and it was never seen as a possible career. So I just had it on the back burner. And I was getting closer and closer to medical school and getting more and more anxious that I would regret not pursuing acting. And so, sort of after waffling for many years, I decided to audition for a master's in fine arts and acting. And that was because I didn't really have any formal training in acting. I didn't study it in undergrad or, in my younger years. It was just all through life experience and being in plays and art and everything like that. And so I thought, if I get into one of these programs, maybe that means I have something to offer. And I was going to take that as the sign that I needed to give myself a chance. And so I got into two programs and I was thrilled. And I moved to LA to attend the University of Southern California's MFA program. And the rest is history. Here I am.
Wow. How does being a former pre-med influence your current role as a nurse on the show? Do you remember any terms from science classes that you're like, oh, wow, I remember that? And you can say those lines.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And I spent a lot of time in hospitals and clinics, and my dad is a former family practitioner. He had his own medical practice, and my mom is a nurse practitioner, and she worked in the CCU in the hospital for many years. So I was really familiar with how nurses interacted with patients and hearing the terminology and the medical language a lot. So it is a cool throwback and always a really I love how it's so familiar to me because it's I still have to work at it quite a bit when when it's all coming at me and I have to have it down for when we're filming. But um, I'm not as intimidated by it as I probably would be if I didn't have a background.
And out of curiosity, when you like got the audition for the pit, did you have to sort of immerse yourself back into that realm of science and that medical background in order to bring out that character when you were like first being introduced to Nurse Perla?
Yeah, a little bit. And I feel that with any role, you kind of, before you go in for the audition, or even when you're now filming or you have a part, you just have to kind of get into that world, obviously, and really put yourself in the actual experience of what this person's going through. And it did help me to be able to use my imagination so vividly from my previous experience of being in an OR and being in a hospital. I remember when I was doing an internship when I was sort of in the break between uh, graduating undergrad and pursuing medical school. I remember watching a C-section, and I remember, I remember the doctors talking, the surgeons talking, the anesthetic going in, the blood everywhere, the scalpels, the blood pressures, the oximeter dropping. So it really, I think back to the real life fear that I had in all of those procedures, and I just, bring it to Nurse Perla.
It's incredible. And something I want to start off by talking about for Nurse Perla specifically is that Perla's identity is a Filipina and a Muslim nurse. What did you do to prepare for a role that is so specific in terms of these cultural representations?
Sure. Thank you for asking that. I
Yeah.
am thrilled that Perla is on television. She is a Filipino American Muslim woman nurse, and I have never seen that, and it's just rarely ever seen on mainstream media. So, in preparing for it, I mean, truly, I had 2 weeks before we started filming by the time I got the role, and it was go time already. So I didn't have a ton of time, but I did my best to sort of deep dive into learning about the Muslim faith, trying to reach out to different Filipino American Muslims in my community to kind of just hear their experience. And I quickly learned that it would be impossible for me to sort of understand the full experience completely. And so I just kind of I realized that the only question that I needed to answer for myself going into filming as Perla was, is there anything about the Muslim way of life that would influence or adjust or be a part of their nursing, or would it shift it at all, and or how would it affect their job? And after talking to several Filipino American Muslim nurses, there there wasn't anything that it would do to either to shift or do anything to get in the way of their patient care. It's still their priority just to care relentlessly for this patient and have as much empathy as possible. And to be honest, I'm still learning as I go along with playing Perla, and as scripts come in, and I still ask a lot of questions of how would Perla specifically understand this procedure or understand this text or understand what she's doing, and just keep asking questions.
And the majority of the pit itself takes place on a hospital set. I'm wondering if you had a vision of what Perla does like outside of the hospital.
Well, I think Perla she's been at this hospital, PTMC, pretty much this was her first job. She really wanted to work there in this urban setting. And she's been there probably for over 8 years or something, like through COVID. I think she is a single mom, and she has two children who are both under the age of 10. So I think she's exhausted, but she loves nursing. She loves her kids, and she knows how to compartmentalize and work hard and like protect herself. She knows how to leave. At least she thinks she knows how to leave the job at the door in order to go home and be with her children.
Uh-huh. And is this something
Yeah.
also I'm just curious, like, is this something that you had to imagine yourself, or did some of the writers sort of drop some hints during production?
Yeah, I mean a little bit of both. I think there are only some hints in the script in the pilot and the first season where it's dropping like, oh, she has some kids and she's exhausted and kind of
And pets.
eye rolly, yeah, and pets,
Yes.
and sort of like, eye rolly exhausted by what's happening at home, and it's I am a mother of a 5.5-year-old. She's almost 6 right now. So I sort of understand that exhaustion, but like deep love for my child. But it's like I'm happy to go to work and have them at school, but I'm also like missing them. It's just this like journey of a mother. Like,
Uh-huh.
so it was a bit of me sort of creating that backstory, but also just from the hints of the writers.
Definitely. I think something that's so special about The Pit as a medical show is its accuracy in depicting the very hectic lives of healthcare professionals, especially in an emergency room setting. So Nurse Perla is often mediating like some sort of communication and really emphasizing medical jargon or reading off data. What was it like memorizing all of these different lines and delivering it in a way that felt authentic to the way that healthcare professionals might?
Sure. Oh my gosh. It's really challenging. I think as soon as I get the scripts, and again, thank goodness I have a sort of familiarity with having a little bit of a medical background, but that was years ago. Um, so anytime I get a script, I immediately go to the hard stuff and get that in my brain as soon as possible. And a trick that I do is as soon as I have it memorized, I'm just saying it all day and doing things with my hands. Like I do it when I'm folding laundry, I do it when I'm washing dishes, I do it when I'm cooking, I'm doing it when I'm driving, just because as soon as it's second nature, and that's the thing about healthcare professionals, they're constantly like they're not thinking about what they're saying. It's so awesomely competent in their brain that that is not difficult. That's actually like them just having a conversation. So I love trying to get to that point, and showing how Perla is just like so competent in all of that stuff and doesn't even have to think about it while like putting in an IV.
Absolutely. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah. And I think like a lot of our listeners, maybe if they watch The Pit, and a lot of audience members really enjoy like the lighthearted moments that you share with Princess, also another Filipina nurse played by Kristen Villanueva, especially that Nurse Perla code switches with her using Tagalog as a language. Can you tell our listeners what that code switching feels like to you and how you relate to Tagalog as a language?
Yeah, totally. Thank you for asking. As Amielynn Abellera, the actor, I grew up. I was born and raised in Stockton, California, and my parents spoke Tagalog and Ilocano at home all the time. And unfortunately, they didn't teach me, so I'm actually not fluent in Tagalog. I'm that Filipino American who later in life got voracious about wanting to embrace her heritage and learn it like in her adult life. And I think that translates with Perla. I do. I think that Perla was also born and raised in the United States, to two Filipinos who came from Mindanao. And even though she had the ear for it, I think that she's learning it later in life. And I think she absolutely is so happy to have Princess as her buddy because she can practice. Because I think like the only way to learn is to constantly be talking every day. And I think like Perla does that. I think she finds any opportunity to celebrate joyfully her heritage by speaking the language with Princess. I think they both do. So it's really close to my own personal experience with Tagalog because right now I am learning Tagalog on my own, taking lessons and things like that in order to teach my daughter as well, just to have it in our life more. But I think that is also what Perla's doing.
Yeah, and for you specifically, how and when did you start learning Tagalog?
Yeah, I think it really is. Like I said, my parents came in the 70s to Stockton, California, as a doctor and a nurse, and that generation at that time was their priority was assimilation, so they didn't really teach me, and our Filipino-ness was a little bit second place in terms of not in a negative way, but it just was just it took a little bit of second priority as opposed to assimilating to our environment in Stockton, California. And so, however, whatever seeds were planted in there to not really pursue Tagalog or pursue to learn and be curious about my Filipino heritage, um, that that was sort of the majority of my childhood and into my college years. And it wasn't until I think college and beyond when I started to honestly, I think it was when I was exposed to Filipino cultural night in university at Santa Clara University, where all of a sudden I was with all these other Filipino Americans who had such a voracious sort of celebration and wanting to learn like the dances, the language, the style, the textiles, the clothing, the music, and they would study it, and they would just be so passionate about it. And that really was an experience for me of, oh my gosh, I didn't I it wasn't like I was neglecting it on purpose. It just that wasn't in my life. So when that was happening for me, I slowly really wanted to start learning the language, um, and started taking lessons probably in my 20s. And then, but again, it's a lifelong process to learn another language. It's challenging. And I wish I was, I wish I was at the level of Perla where she has a buddy all the time to practice, practice, practice. But I don't have that in my home or in my workplace right now, except with Princess at the hospital.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah,
And currently at the time of this interview, season two of The Pit
yeah,
is in progress, and you had some really emotionally nuanced moments in the 12 o'clock episode. I'm not going to spoil it too much, but when Perla reacts to losing a long-term patient, I'm wondering for you as an actress, can you tell us about how you're able to switch from some, more lighthearted scenes to moments that really emphasize the darker, heavier aspects of being in medicine, like death and disease? How do you portray and balance that?
sure. Yeah, thank you for asking. I think nurses are amazing in that way, where I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse to be able to compartmentalize such extremes of feeling and experiences of uh, loss of patients on the hour, every hour, and being able to move on to sort of uplift and help other patients on the hour, every hour. But I think Perla, as as such an experienced, competent nurse, has learned how to switch it on, switch it off. But I do feel that something that episode 206 was trying to shine a light on is what if that armor has cracks, or what if that armor isn't as strong for certain patients, or what if that armor is uh what if that punch I'm not able to recover as easily as I usually am. So and I think that must happen all the time with healthcare professionals of what they have to do. I think they have to experience losing loved ones and patients and friends who are patients all the time. And how is it that they get back up to be there for the next one? So it was ultimately challenging, but I'm so glad that episode showed that dynamic.
Speaking of a hospital setting, I imagine it's quite a unique set to be on, and the pit definitely emphasizes the realism of being in a hospital. Like we see lots of different types of medical equipment, hand sanitizer, very relevant, pressing things that make us feel like we're almost like engaging with the show in a sense. How do you describe that set?
To me, I really feel like it's a real hospital. Everything pretty much works almost like the real thing, but it doesn't, right? So like the water fountain looks, smells, feels like a real water fountain, and it is until it just doesn't shoot out water, right? Like everything is so amazing, and I think that's what Nina Ruscio, our set designer, wanted to build, and working with all the executives was they wanted to build this entire whole hospital to really immerse us in the reality of it. And there a lot of times there are real needles that we have to close up on, but then when we do something actually, we switch it out for a dull needle. So it's really very this balance and like a real scalpel that needs to look so sharp, but then as soon as it's actually near the skin, it is a dull scalpel, and then that's also a prosthetic. So sometimes I can't tell what's real and not real. I just kind of have to I just have to jump in and kind of engage with it, and then if it's the real thing, not be freaked out. So yeah, but it's a part of the it's so incredibly fun. And it's so I'm so fascinated by this hospital that I basically go to work to like a real nurse at 5 in the morning every day for a 12-hour shift, and I put on the scrubs and then I take off the scrub. So I kind of feel like so much like a real nurse, but also not.
Hmm. Yeah. How do you think the pit has influenced you as an actress? After being on this show, have your goals as an actress changed? What do you see yourself doing in the future?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I am really in a dream right now. It feels uh, like I probably had this dream of, you know, really being invited on a show from its initial season, initial episode, and being a part of a team from the very beginning, originating a role that is representing so many different cultural dimensions, like across the board, and also the show being so successful and having an impact globally, not only for healthcare workers, but the diversity that is the reality of the world. So I it's hard to think ahead. I kind of just want this to last as long as possible for Nurse Perla and for Amielynn. And I I've learned to be in my acting career just putting one foot in front of the other and trusting that where it's going will lead to the next piece in my universe. And the moment I try to plan something or want something to happen, it will not happen. I think I just have to trust the journey and how the universe will put what's meant to be in front of me.
Yeah, and as an actress, what are you the most passionate about doing in any role that you play?
Um, well, I love the human experience. I love what that did to me as a young artist and as a young kid, and what that ignited in me watching like an actor go through it and it be so real and me be so moved. And I love being that vehicle and I for other audience members. And as the actor, I can feel if I'm like hitting a stride with it, and it's a really exhilarating process, and it just reignites why I love being an actor.
For all the listeners who have watched The Pit, or for those of our listeners who have yet to watch The Pit, and they definitely will after hearing this episode. What do you want the listeners or the audience members to take away from watching The Pit, from seeing you as Nurse Perla in it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, first off, I hope you go home and turn on your HBO Max and watch The Pit, to all of you who haven't seen it yet. Um, and I hope you enjoy it. And I just hope that you watch it and are entertained, but also you walk away with learning something about humanity and our healthcare workers, and also laughing and crying and being fascinated as much as we are behind the scenes. we're really having such an excellent time creating this show. And we're so thrilled that audience members love it as much as we love making it. So I hope you have that same exhilaration and elation as we all do here.
Yay! I'll put a link to your social media on kpfa.org
Cool.
so our listeners can follow you there. And thank you so much, Amielynn, for joining me on Apex Express today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk to you and to share my story, and thank you for listening.
That was actress Amielynn Abellera, who plays Nurse Perla, one of the Filipina nurses on The Pit. And we're about to hear from one more actress from the show. But before that, here's a music break with 7,000 Miles by Ruby Ibarra.
Yeah. 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 Hello, America. Break your backs for dollars, they don't carry ya. 7,000 miles away from home with language barriers. Land of opportunity. Tell me, is it good to you? But 6 feet deep on stolen land is where they bury in November 1991. Papa came here with a wife, 2 daughters, no money, but they wanted them a better life. Peaceful to their name, so they piecing up the pain. Ain't no peace in the position as an immigrant is praying for a piece of that Americana pie for the cream. To a piece of dream they sold you, but it only was a dream. For a piece of mind to thinking that my mama could be seen as an equal, not a foreign immigrant or in between. I was a kid in the sky, nothing but dreams in her eyes, hoping that we would survive. But mama, those were the times. They telling us compromise, they always feeding us lies, made to believe I don't exist unless I wear a disguise. Cause I be constantly lied to, broken down till I cry, till I no longer recognize the person that was inside. Until we fade like the sun and we forget where we from, then we self-hate till it's done and never question it once. So mama, tell me we won, the person that I become. I have a sword for a tongue and a skin that shines in the sun. And because the place that I'm from, it still lingers deep on my tongue. And so every word that's from my lungs can hold the weight of a ton. If I'm ever slipping, I'm never looking down. I do it for myself till the end to hold it down. And even when I'm sinking, I'm never looking down. I do this for myself till the end to hold it down, yeah.
Mama will make it in America. Mama will make it in America. Yeah, mama will make it in America. I swear, yeah. Mama will make it in America. Mama will make it in America. Yeah, mama will make it in America. I swear, yeah.
Feeling homesick as we go. Mama's never really home, cause she working all alone. Living broke, we need a loan. Papa threatened mama's life. Papa left with no goodbye. Promised to myself inside, no man will ever make me cry. Now I'm thinking that I'm grown. All I wanna do is roam, running far away from home. In the crowd, I feel alone. Mama, she be working late. Lines are showing on her face. Too much pressure on her plate. I'm too selfish to relate. Auntie says stay in your home. Might get darker cause you prone. Look into the mirror, oh, Filipino blood and bones. Questioning my skin and tone like I should be embarrassed though. Whiter skin is seen as gold. This is what we're always told. Mama said to learn the race. Every day I emulate till identity erased. Overcome by inner hate. Teacher said to hide my tongue. They don't understand me none. Hold my breath, these 4 lungs too powerful. They lack a gun. I'm correcting mama's words. I'm embarrassed when she slurs. What makes me better than her? This language wasn't her first. Ruby, can you get a grip? Find a balance to my slip. Mom and Donna need you quick. Stop thinking that you the 7,000 miles from home, but a million more to go. Gotta make it on my own. I can feel I'm getting close. 7,000 miles from home, but a million more to go. Gotta make it on my own. I can feel I'm getting close.
Mama will make it in America. Mama will make it in America. Yeah, mama will make it in America. I swear, yeah. Mama will make it in America. Yeah, mama will make it in America. Yeah, mama will make it in America. I swear, yeah. Mama will make it in America. Mama will make it in America. Mama will make it in America. I swear, yeah. America. America. Mama will make it in America. Mama will make it in America. Yeah, mama will make it in America. Yeah, I swear.
And that was the song 7,000 Miles by Ruby Ibarra here on KPFA. Thanks for tuning in to Apex Express tonight, where our next guest is the actress Kristen Villanueva, who plays Nurse Princess de la Cruz, another Filipina nurse on the HBO Max medical show, The Pitt. Hi, Kristen. Welcome to Apex Express.
Hi, Isabel. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My first question for you is, how do you identify and what's your story?
I am Filipino American. I was born and raised in Manila, Philippines, and I moved to the Washington, D.C. area when I was 15.
How did you get into becoming an actress?
Kind of by accident. When I moved to the States and I was at my new high school, um, I joined the drama program just because we didn't have that in my school in the Philippines, and that was something I've always been interested in. So yeah, I auditioned and I didn't know that the drama teacher was a very serious one. Like you either join the drama club or you play softball. You can't have both. So yeah, that's how I got introduced.
And at a young age, what kinds of films or movies really inspired you to pursue drama?
I don't think it inspired me to pursue drama, but my choice of movies, my favorite movies when I was younger is, I would say, is a little bit peculiar for an 8-year-old, for a 10-year-old. But I remember watching Kramer versus Kramer with Dustin Hoffman and Meryl Streep, and it having such an effect in my little 8-year-old self. I was so moved by it. And also Legends of the Fall with Anthony Hopkins, Aidan Quinn, and Brad Pitt. And like, what does a 10-year-old Filipino girl have anything in common with these turn of the century, 19th century, Montana cowboys? It's just so random, but for some reason I just fell in love with it. Maybe I just fell in love with Brad Pitt, but yeah, those heavy dramas had an impact in me, even though I didn't know exactly what it was.
So you played Nurse Princess on the HBO Max medical show The Pit, and which at the time of this interview, we're getting towards the finale of season two very, very quickly. I've really been enjoying season two. And first of all, congratulations on winning Outstanding Performance by an Ensemble in a drama series. That's so incredible.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Can I just say, Princess is such an energetic and confident character, and it's really fun watching you play a healthcare professional in such a hectic setting of an emergency room. What do you do to get in character of Princess?
Oh, that's a great question. She has such a vibrant energy when she's at the ED. Um, and I don't need a lot to prep myself to get to that level because I'm just excited to be at the Warner Brothers lot, and being on set and being with very kind people. So it doesn't take a lot to get in that mindset. Maybe if it's a 5:30 a.m. call, maybe I need a little bit more coffee to get there. But um, in terms of my emotion and excitement and energy, I don't need to do that much because yeah, it's parallel in my real life and in Princess's life of just doing what they both want to do. Um, but in terms of, I would say the difference is, I wish I had Princess's confidence in my life more. She's very confident in everything that she does. She knows she's good and she isn't shy to show it because I think when she shows it, it's not to show, it's just to do, you know. So I wish I have more of that in my life.
For you, what's the most challenging part of playing Princess?
I would say, well, first the lines, the medical jargon and the technicality of things. So thankfully, we have amazing med techs that are always right next to us, correcting us, making us feel more confident, guiding us, answering all our questions. So yeah, making sure that I look like I know what I'm doing. So that would be, I would say, the hardest part.
Yeah, and on that note, like in many of her moments, Princess is so often mediating communication for medical information in so many different ways. How do you prepare for a role like that where you have to, I mean, you mentioned some things about um, needing to like look and act the part and you have some people helping you, but what are some other things that you do to really have you, help practice sounding like a healthcare professional?
First, I Google everything. Um, and then I make sure I'm able to explain it in my own words or whatever the procedure is. Don't ask me anything now because once I'm done filming, it leaves my brain. So yes, I research everything. Um, and then when it comes to memorization, if it's the nurses have a lot of numbers. We may not have a lot of the long words, Latin words, medicine words that the doctors do, but we have to say a lot of different numbers, BP 160 over 20, um, and all of that. So what I do is I would record the other people's lines, leave a space for my lines, and just play it all day, every day when I'm walking the dog, when I'm doing dishes, when I'm folding laundry. So I can get it in my body while I'm doing different things. Because I notice that if I'm just sitting down and memorizing my lines, and then I get to set the next day, and all of a sudden, I'm given all these choreography and I'm moving, or they change the choreography in the middle, that gets really tricky. So, doing my lines while moving helps a lot. And then, of course, the things that I can Google as much as I can, but then I take advantage of having, like I said, the med techs on set. Then I ask them about their emotional experiences behind procedures. So things I start with, okay, is this procedure an everyday thing? How often do you see it? How often do you deal with it? And then from there, I ask if it's something interesting that it's like they've only heard of, but never actually seen in practice. What would you do, right? Like they say, if you're not busy, you run to that room and watch it, that kind of thing. Um, and if it's um, and if it's an emotional scene, then I ask them, how do you deal with these things, right? Um, then I get to hear their experiences and how they cope with it after the shift.
Did you know anything about medicine or the emergency room before this role?
No, no. I think I'm one of those very rare Filipinos that don't really have a lot of healthcare professionals in their families. I do have a cousin who's a radiologist, and my husband's side of family, there are a lot of nurses, and that's on my mother-in-law included. But no, I have zero.
Oh, wow. So I watched some of your other interviews and I found it really interesting that you had talked about like telling your agent not to submit you to roles on nurses on projects unless it was specifically featured. Can you tell us more about that and how you navigate like the Filipino representation in medical shows, especially in the pit as an actress yourself?
Sure, I was getting a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but I would often get auditions for nurses in medical shows or non-medical shows. And I've played them before, and I've been very grateful for those experiences. One of them was a movie opposite Susan Sarandon. So Susan Sarandon was also playing a nurse. So all of my scenes was with her. So those are very cool experiences. But because I've played them a number of times, then I told my agents at one point, hey, unless, like you said, the nurse part is more featured or has more lines other than yes, doctor, then sure, I would audition because I've done it. Um, and I also didn't want to perpetuate that sad practice of, okay, let's have one Filipino or one Asian nurse and check that box off. Because it does feel that way. And, it's just not the real world. So when the pit came and I saw the breakdown, it's a heftier breakdown for the part of Nurse Princess. I mean, and just looking at her name, Princess de la Cruz, I was like, somebody did the research. So I'm like, all right, okay, I'll put myself on tape for this.
Yeah, and I love how Princess as a character is written to be such a crucial part of the team. Very competent, very quick on her feet. Are there any ways where you yourself got to influence how Princess was portrayed, maybe beyond the script, or in any ways that you could add to that character?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I have noticed that in season two, on the scripts, Princess's looks, eye rolls, stares were now written. Whereas before I was just doing it. Um, so yes, I think so. Because I didn't have a lot of lines. I still don't have a lot of lines, but that doesn't mean she doesn't have an opinion. And yeah, I was just being truthful in all those moments. So if I feel like something's off or I don't think Princess has a good poker face. So that made its way into the script recently.
Oh, I see. Well, the show primarily takes place in a hospital setting, but for you, when you're playing Princess, do you imagine what she does like outside of the hospital? Like, who is she outside of work?
I think when there is an after party or somebody's birthday, someone's baptism, or, I think she's the same. I think she's a work hard, party harder kind of girl, but I can also see her turning everything off and having a lot of deep, quiet solo time that she doesn't talk about much often.
Yeah, something so cool about Princess is the fact that she can apparently speak six languages. But I want to just talk about the fact that you, as Princess, code switch to Tagalog in many scenes, especially with Amielynn Abellera, who plays Nurse Perla. For you, can you tell the listeners how it feels for you switching from English to Tagalog?
Well, first off, the first word that comes to mind is it's fun. You get to use that skill or use that used to be very familiar part of myself again. Um, but I also feel extremely vulnerable because I don't get to do that often. I don't think maybe I've acted once in Tagalog, um, but I can't remember any other significant roles where I was able to do that. So to do that on the pit is, yeah, it's pretty vulnerable, just in terms of sharing that part of myself that I haven't shared really, acting wise. But it's also fun because it comes naturally. And there's so many nuances that I would think only Filipinos would get, but it's also so gratifying to hear from other folks who are not Filipinos that get it. Even though they don't understand the Filipino jokes, but they have their own version in their own culture. So it's really fun to hear that.
Just out of curiosity for you, how do you relate to Tagalog as a language? Do you speak it often?
I don't speak it often, unfortunately. I do still speak it with my family, and we Zoom once, twice a week. But other than that, no, I don't speak it often. And it's kind of sad because I feel like some words are leaving my memory. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, wow. So when they're written in the scripts, do you translate or are they already words in Tagalog that you already know?
When they're written in the script, they're written in English. And season one, I used to translate it for myself. And then season two, we have a coach who gave us a lot more options. But what's wonderful about working with the writers is they're not precious with their own phrases. They defer to us to translate it as close to the gist of, like, let's say it's a joke. But if I were to translate it in Tagalog word per word, it's not going to land the same way as it would in American, in English. Do you know what I mean? So they much rather have us say it in whatever's parallel in Tagalog. So yeah, and I applaud the writers for doing that because that's one of my pet peeves sometimes when I'm watching other shows translation of it's not quite that, or if it's too literal. If it's too literal, then that's not how we talk.
Right. And putting that in the context of Princess as a character who is a polyglot, there are some moments where she speaks French and does sign language. How did you navigate these multilingual exchanges, communicating in different languages, essentially?
Oh, I look forward to it. I look forward to them so badly. It's one of the things I got really excited about auditioning for the part because it was written in her breakdown that she speaks 6 languages. I personally don't, but I am so enamored by polyglots. Like if I were to meet someone who can speak 3 languages plus, I follow them like a puppy. I don't know, I just find it so sexy and intriguing. And it's like something that I aspire to be, but just haven't had the time to do it. So yes, I look forward to them.
Yeah, and how do you practice? Like, did you have to practice some French and some ASL?
Oh, for the French, since there's only one line, we didn't hire a coach, but we did hire coaches for ASL. Oh yeah, I practiced the hell out of them. But there's also that nuance of um, how fluent or how good is your pronunciation for someone who doesn't speak it all the time. You gotta like factor that in as well. But yes, I just practice it all the time.
Gotcha. And speaking of that, I love how Princess and Perla add some lighthearted humor and back and forths and gossip throughout the series. How do you switch from humorous moments to more serious ones?
I mean, you don't really think about it in life, right? Like 1 minute you're crying and then something happens and then you find it hilarious. You just go with the flow on set. You don't really ever plan, okay, this beat is a funny beat or this one is a dramatic beat. You don't. As long as you keep it honest, those colors would come out naturally.
The pit is very current. Like there are so many current events and everyday sort of issues mirrored in the series. But what is your experience working with a set and a story that feels like it is very much set in the everyday?
It hasn't been an issue. It's never if anything, sometimes it's tougher because you can't escape the real world, right? It's not like when I get to do a Shakespeare comedy, there's a reprieve from, you know, the sad current events that are happening. Um, so yeah, that's I would say that's the only downside, but there's a lot more upside to that, which is you get to present and work through real life situations. That I'm happy that a TV show like The Pit, something that's made for entertainment, can actually dive into these really serious topics. And what I love about The Pit is that I don't think it's preachy. I don't think it tackles headlines of the day in a way that it makes you want to turn the TV off. If anything, it shows the repercussions on the everyday people, and hopefully audiences that don't have anything to do. Like, I'll give you an example, like for um, nurses strikes, right? If you see that on the headline and you don't work, you're not a healthcare worker, you'll probably just skip that video or not read that article because you think it doesn't affect you. But hopefully, by watching The Pit, you'll see, oh no, it will affect me. If God forbid I have to go to the hospital, if my loved one has to go to the hospital and you don't get seen for 10 hours, or there were mistakes in, the medicine, or it's just not top care that you think you deserve, it's not because the nurses or the doctors or the staff are bad. They're understaffed, period. Right? They haven't had a day off in 12 days. So no, it's a privilege to be able to do a show, have a job that actually reflects what's happening in real life.
Yeah, thank you for sharing about that. And finally, I want to touch upon your work in general. As an actress, would you say there's something that you're most passionate about doing?
Ooh, are we talking about material or medium? because I would say everything. I do miss doing plays. I haven't done a play since, my gosh, I think pre-COVID, so it's been a while. So I really love doing plays. I have more experience in theater than TV and film combined. A really good material is so inspiring to do, whether it be a classic like a Chekhov or any new contemporary plays. You know, there's so many playwrights whose plays I want to do so badly. There's something electric about working on a brand new play when the playwright is in the room. But also, it's also really amazing to work on juicy Shakespearean tragedies. You know, when I get to play Shakespeare ingenues, in those 3 hours, you've lived a lifetime. You know, usually in a Shakespearean comedy, you meet the ingenue when before they fall in love, and then they fall in love, and then they get their hearts broken, and then by the end, they're kind of this new person who's a little bit more learned, but not the same 16-year-old that you met 3 hours ago. So getting to do those parts are complete joy.
I'm wondering, do you have a dream role that you'd like to play in the future, like either in theater or in film? Who would it be, and who would you like to work with?
I love this question. My imagination just starts going everywhere. Yes, my dream role for the theater would be Martha from Edward Albee's Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. I got to do that play a few years ago, but as Honey, as one of the other characters. But I would love to play Martha someday. Um, Another theater role would be Arkadina from The Seagull or Nina, but I think I've aged out of Nina. And in terms for like TV, gosh, I'm obsessed with Narcos. Obsessed. And I've written a part from if Narcos was ever to do a season about the Philippines, I have a role that I wrote for myself because I don't you look at my face like my face is too round and I'm too short and I smile too much for a show like Narcos or The Wire, which are like one of my top favorite TV shows. And I don't have a part for them because I don't look the part, but I found a way to write myself in Narcos season, I don't know, season 5, Philippines.
One last question for you. These are such incredible answers. Thank you so much for sharing. One last question for you. Out of your entire acting career right now, what has been the most rewarding moment for you?
I mean, besides the pit, mainly because of the reach and mainly because a lot of Filipino nurses have become so happy just to be seen and represented, and that means so, so much. Um, Another role that I am most proud of is this play. I wouldn't even say play. It's more of a performance art piece called The Courtroom. The theater company called Waterwell produced it in New York, and The Courtroom is about a Filipino immigrant to the US who accidentally voted when she was still only on a green card. So she wasn't supposed to vote, but she did not do it maliciously. So the play is about her filing appeal after appeal to stay in the US and not be deported. So I'm pretty proud of that. We used the lines were straight out of the court transcripts, and yeah, I wish we can do it again, especially with the current climate.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much, Kristen, for sharing your story and all of your various experiences. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh, just thank you so much for watching the pit and for all the nice words about the show and I hope you keep watching.
And that was Kristen Villanueva, who plays Nurse Princess De La Cruz on The Pitt, which just released its season 2 finale last week at this time. Please check out our website, kpfa.org/program/Apex Express, to find out more about our show and our 2 guests tonight, Kristen and Amielynn. We thank all of you listeners out there. Keep resisting, keep organizing, keep creating and sharing your visions with the world. Your voices are important. Apex Express is produced by Ayame Keen Lee, Anuj Vaidya, Cheryl Trong, Jelena Keen Lee, Miko Lee, Miyata Tan, Preeti Mangala Shekhar, and Swati Rayasam. Tonight's show was produced and edited by me, Isabel Li. Have a great evening, and thanks so much for listening.
You are invited to a roundtable discussion on Black feminism and visual art to explore how Black feminist artists continue to expand the field of visual culture. This talk centers on 11 artworks on display at the SFO Airport. That's Friday, April 24th from 11 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. at the San Francisco Airport's Aviation Museum. For more information, go to eventbrite.com's listing, Reclaiming Histories, Black Feminism, and Visual Art.
Stay in the know and stay in the vibe. KPFA's on social media, serving up hand-picked episodes you need to hear, special announcements, and just enough sass to get you through the week. Find us by searching KPFA Radio and feed your algorithm with something real. Again, that's at KPFA Radio. You'll know once you find us. Trust me, you can't miss it.
Everything feels sharp lately. The world moves fast, and people are scared, anxious, tired. So let's slow it down. Just for a moment. Just for this breath. Be kind, beginning with you. Kindness may seem small, it isn't. It's how we carry each other through in times like these. Information matters. Care matters too. KPFA is here for both. Independent, listener-supported, and rooted in community.
This is 94.1 KPFA and 89.3 KPFB in Berkeley, 88.1 KFCF in Fresno, and online across the multiverse at kpfa.org.